that the other guy?
Okay, I think we're live, which is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, we are.
It is not Ricky Sachs at the helm today. Afternoon, welcome to Last Word On Spurs. It isn't Ricky, as I said. He is currently in South America having a medical to join Spurs. Well, hang on a minute. Actually, it's double. Ben Tancour is actually having his medical. I've been given the reins this afternoon for the transfer special, the afternoon transfer special of Last Word On Spurs, and I'm driving a crazy train. I have no idea what Ricky's done. I think this transfer window has sent him over the edge. He's given me the reins, and I'm here. I'm actually delighted to be joined by, as you can see on screen, Jason and Jamie from the Daily Hotspur, one of our own Chris Callan, and of course the wonderful Richard Cracknell as well. Lads, listeners, let's get into it a little bit. What do you think so far of the January transfer window? Jamie, just come around to you quickly. You know, we've been hearing a lot about different transfers and that type of stuff, but over the last couple of weeks, now we've got these kind of two lads in from Juve. Are you feeling a bit more positive? Talk to us a little bit about that.
I'm a bit. I don't know. I'm very mixed on these two Juve lads. Partly because it feels as though these are two deals that could have potentially done a bit earlier in the window. So it feels as though maybe we have moved for kind of these alternative targets. And I think when Spurs have gone for these alternative targets in the past, they've usually not worked out. So, look, as a Spurs fan, I'm always someone that's very optimistic, and I'm always going to give signings a chance. I think with Kulusevski, he's obviously an alternative to other forwards, but he's 21 years old. He's a guy that did very well in Serie A when he was at Atalanta. So I'm interested to see what he can do over here. Bentancur is a guy who's 24, so he's relatively young as well. The one thing I'd say is that he's very similar midfielder in terms of what we've already got. I would have liked to have maybe seen a creative midfielder come in. I think Bentancur is very similar to the likes of Skip, Winks and Højbjerg. So you've now got four pretty similar midfielders. So maybe Conte is looking to play with like a solid midfield. So I'm interested to see how they get on. Of course, I'm going to give them time to kind of settle in. But there are still kind of areas in this squad where you do feel as though we did need to strengthen. I felt as though a right wing back was something that was definitely needed this month. As I said, if you're going to really pack that midfield with those solid midfielders, you wonder where the creativity is going to come from. For me, that needed to come from the wing back. So I'm disappointed that we haven't maybe gone for a right wing back. I'm disappointed maybe a striker hasn't come in, because I think this month was really crucial in terms of making a strong push for the top four, because there's all this talk about, in the summer, we're going to have this big, we're going to spend lots of money, but that's going to totally depend on being in the Champions League, whether we can attract players, we're going to have that extra money. So this transfer window is really important to ensure that we kicked on. And I'm waiting to see. Look, let's give these two new guys a chance, see if they can really add to the squad. So I'm interested to see what they can do, and I'm going to give them time for sure.
Look, Chris, coming around to you. I mean, you've had so many different journalists on your show over the last kind of couple of weeks or so. Absolutely fascinating insight into how the transfer window has actually been panning out. What are your sources telling you, or what do you know about any other maybe incomings coming in today, or of course about the two lads that we've just talked about?
Well, of course, Lee, it's very, very difficult, because I think that Conte has got a huge job on his hands. Fabio Pracci has got a huge job on his hands. Conte has probably got a bigger job than he first thought with this squad. And I just think that this January transfer window is about offloading the players that we don't want here, that don't want to play here, and refreshing the squad. Kulusevski and Bentancur, I think, are good additions to this Tottenham Hotspur squad. If Conte trusts them and Conte wants them here, then it's going to improve our squad. Yes, Jamie said they're young players. Hopefully they can adapt to the Premier League very quickly. But I've said all along, this January transfer window is about players walking in to the starting 11 to improve it. Not buying, players for the future, not buying players for the bench. So hopefully these two new additions can be the difference for us to reach top four, because this January transfer window is an opportunity to improve the squad to finish in that top four, because the summer is going to be extremely important. I'm expecting a very busy summer. As you mentioned, I've been speaking to journalists over the last couple of weeks on my channel, and they're all saying the same thing. They're all expecting a very, very busy summer. But of course, there is that thing of we've got to finish in the Champions League to attract the best players. Yes, we've got a world-class manager where players are going to be attracted by him anyway. But to play Champions League football, that's what every footballer wants to do. But I'm pleased that, we're hearing now that Tanguy Ndombele has signed a deal at Lyon, going back to his old
club. Is that
club.
what you're hearing now? Is that happening, Chris?
That's happening. That's happening. So he's going back to Lyon, and there is a clause in the contract where they could buy him back for 65 million euros. If only, what we really want, ideally as Spurs fans, is the fact that Ndombele goes out on loan, Dele Alli goes out on loan, Giovanni Lo Celso goes out on loan, and they do really well at the clubs, respectively, until the summer, and then they go and sign permanent deals at those clubs. That would be an ideal scenario. But I just still feel that there are some players at the club. We joked around in the WhatsApp group earlier about, some players feel comfortable at the club, and some players don't even really feel that, feel bothered that they're not playing at the club. If it was me being a professional footballer, I would want game time. I'd want to be playing. So there is so much work to do. But I just feel that, with these two new additions, it freshens the squad. And when, we've spoken so many times about not signing players in transfer windows, that old saying I keep going on about 518 days without signing, at least we have refreshed the squad and given Antonio Conte some kind of chance to finish in the top four.
Well, Johnny Packer says on the screen there, if Ali Lo Celso and Ndombele go, does that mean that we're getting another attacker? But surely, if all three of them go, I'll give you an unbelievable stat here, listeners and viewers. Since Paratici come in within 7 months, if them three go, as Johnny suggests on screen, that would be 16 players that he shipped out in less than 2 transfer windows. You've still got a few hours left of this one, of course. I think that's absolutely amazing, really. Do you think, Chris, just staying with you just quickly, do you think anyone else will come in that kind of attacking midfield type role if we do ship out them three, as Johnny suggests?
Well, as Jamie said, and I completely agree, to not sign a striker again in another transfer window would just be dreadful. The last striker that we actually signed on a permanent deal was back in 2017, Fernando Llorente. That is a ridiculous stat. Of course, we had Carlos Vinicius on loan last season, but we desperately need a striker. We desperately need that playmaker to make the midfield tick. And, we need a set-piece taker as well, because all of us, on every single chat that we do, we're frustrated that Harry Kane is still on the free kicks. Giovanni Lo Celso has tried the free kicks as well. So at the moment, who's on the free kicks? It is that creative player, is that alternative striker, backup striker, player to play alongside Harry Kane. No matter how you want to describe it, we do need another attacking option. But it will be interesting, these last few hours of the transfer window. But as I've said all along, I've said ever since Antonio Conte has come in, I expect the main business to be done in the summer, and hopefully it's a very, very busy one.
For sure, mate, for sure. Look, Jace, coming round to you, are you surprised that we haven't gone for the likes of James Ward-Prowse, as a free kick specialist? I think he's got more direct free kicks scored in the Premier League history than anyone else other than David Beckham. I think he scored 13 and David Beckham scored 17 off the top of my head. The likes of Ruben Neves, for example, the likes of Rafinha. Obviously we've been loosely linked with the likes of Tariq Lamptey, but are you surprised, Jace, that we haven't gone for more Premier League proven players in this transfer window?
I'd have loved us to have gone for James Ward-Prowse. We've talked about him in the group. I think he's a player that would be gettable for the profile of club that we now are. A move from Southampton to Tottenham is an upward one. Some of the other players mentioned, like Rafinha, I'm hearing big things about, Bayern going for him, Chelsea going for him, in which case he's not going to Tottenham. Simple as that. We really have to learn our place. We are the biggest club in the world to us 5 people. We are not the biggest club in the world for footballers out there when you've got Bayern Munich's, Juve's, Atletico Madrid's, Barcelona's, PSG's. All those clubs are way bigger than Tottenham in the minds of players. And you saw that with Luis Diaz. So, Rafinha's, I don't think Leeds were going to do business in the middle of the year. And if they were, it's going to be 60, 70 million. And we weren't going to do it. I keep seeing the name of Bissouma linked. Anyone in their right mind is not signing Bissouma in the window for other reasons. And I don't know why his name constantly comes up, because no club is spending 45, 50 million on a player with a possible court case hanging over his head. So there was another one that we were constantly linked with. Yeah. What we have done, I look at it and I think, what have we done? They're perhaps two of not the most sexy names that we could have had, but we have players at our club in Ndombele, Lo Celso, Dele, perhaps Joe Rodon, perhaps Brian Hill, those 5 players that look like they have no real position in the Premier League under Antonio Conte. He considers them unusable. Whether we agree with that or not, whether we think Brian Hill's capable of a cameo appearance for 10 minutes at Aston Villa or something, is irrelevant. He appears that he's got 5 players in that squad that is unusable. And therefore, by bringing in 2 players that he presumably thinks, I can use these players, he's improved the squad. That's the first thing to say. Whether he's improved it to the way we want it is irrelevant. He's done it. And the other thing I would say is, in terms of trying to improve the squad for the top 4, as at today's date, there's only 3 clubs with a better points per game average in the Premier League this season than Tottenham. So from that point of view, we're on target to finish 4th. The clubs that are battling 4th, and I keep hearing, have Tottenham done enough to secure a top 4? No, we probably haven't. But what have Arsenal done? They're competing for us. They're losing a player that has contributed points to them in Aubameyang. Manchester United have lost 2 strikers. Let's be fair about it, because one of them's never going to play for them again this season. The other one's gone on loan. Van der Beek goes out on loan. I look at what Wolves have done. I look at what West Ham have done. Have they done enough to go past Tottenham on that points per game average? Pogba may come back, but you've got the manager problems at Man United. So have we actually had a worse window than those clubs around us? We probably haven't at the moment. So, have we done enough?
I was going to say, when you look at it like that, and it's kind of like horses for courses. I mean, we will come on to the points per game ratio and the amount of points coming on a bit later on. Crackers, just want to bring you in actually, because you've got a comment on screen now from Gareth Needs, and this is something that you certainly brought up literally just 5 minutes ago or so in the actual group itself. So welcome to the show, Crackers. Origi. Gareth Needs says, go get Origi. He's available. He's not too expensive. Probably people don't look at us as a kind of a threat to them. What's your thoughts on getting Premier League proven players that could actually come and really help the first 11?
Well, that would have been ideal, wouldn't it? But, we are in the constraints of a January window. If there was an absolute raft of teams doing business and we wasn't, then you could look a bit closer at that. But January is a very, very difficult window to do business. Origi's got to want to come. And on top of that, Liverpool have got to let him come to us. Because, although we're not a direct rival at the moment, why strengthen somebody that you can keep weak in your own league as such? So that's, there's a difficulty there. Premier League proven players would have been ideal, but I think that's a very, very difficult thing to do in January, to be fair to the club and the transfer strategy. But Jason's spot on, really. At the moment, despite the perceptions and the feelings around the club, we're not doing too terribly, are we? Really, we've got games in hand. I know we've got to win them. And I said a few weeks ago as well, it's not so much who comes in this window, it's who we can get out the door. And I think if you can get people like Lo Celso, that has been widely reported as an attitude problem and is probably stinking the place out with that, and Dembele, to quote my old granddad, you wouldn't want in the trenches next to you either, would you? And Dele's, lost his way. So if you can ship out 3-4 players that are not offering anything, and in fact even being a negative impact, that's actually you have to count that as part of a good window, if you like. And we brought in 2 players. But a dividing opinion, really. Some are saying that they're struggling to get into a Juve team that's doing very well and can't find a place in that. Jamie, yes, Tottenham Hotspur is looking very fit today, isn't he? This is a comment on the screen, but. Ideally, if we could bring a couple more in, but there's 9 hours or eight and 3/4 hours still to go in this window. And if this was Christmas time to Daniel Levy, that's still September. for December shopping, isn't it? Like it's sort of 8 3/4 hours. So if all of a sudden this permanent deal for Delhi gets done to Everton and frees up a lot of funds, you could see something happening at 7, 8 o'clock tonight quite easily, and another couple coming in. It does happen. So until that window closes, all bets are off, really. But so far, it's not been terrible. Put it that way. It's not been brilliant, but it's been okay. And people are saying we're not doing any business with we players that we're bringing in. We've got to surely have learnt our lesson from bringing in these players at sort of 20s and 30 millions, but really just not working out. So maybe the more ideal thing to do is to try and get through the rest of this season and avoid buying those 20, 30 million pound players that are coming on 4 or 5 year contracts, and then get into the summer when it is easier to deal and buying better quality players, better scouted players, and Premier League proven players, which are easier to buy in the summer, and stop this rinse and repeat that continues to go on with our transfer strategy. But then Jamie's also right, is that we stand on the on the precipice of getting into the top 4 and attracting even better players. It's a very, very difficult conundrum to solve, Lee.
And can I just say, this thing about this thing about we're going to go big in the summer. Let's not forget we haven't paid a single penny for Romero yet. So there's the first 42 million. If people think people will jump to we've already signed Romero. We haven't. We've got to pay 42 million for him. So if going big in the summer is 150 million quid, there's 42 million quid of it gone already. That's got to be accounted for.
Yeah, good point. It's a really good point. Jake, coming over to you. You're really well connected for through the Daily Hotspur and all the aggregation stuff that you do with all the journalists that you talk to as well. I must just quickly say as well, Chris is out to buzz off because he's got another show that he's actually putting out there. So thanks ever so much, Chris, for coming on. But Jamie, just back over to you. What's your view of getting in somebody else or maybe another one player today? I mean, as Crackers just said, we've got 8 hours or 9 hours left of the transfer window. Do you think there's something going to come left field? I mean, I've got a feeling. I don't know why, but are you hearing that it's done or what?
Well, I mean, all the suggestions seem to be that we are done. The only thing I'd say is that maybe if something like Dele Alli moving to Everton on a permanent deal, that looked like one that wasn't particularly going to happen today. So if they can get him out the door on a permanent move, then maybe something might crop up. But I think the one thing that you look at the way Fabio Paratici operates, I think what he does is he obviously lines up a number of deals and then sees which one comes off. So you just wonder whether he's got a deal lined up under wraps. I mean, I'm not suggesting he is. I'm just saying that could be a coincidence, and we'll have to see what happens. I just wonder whether he has something lined up in case they can move a player out the door.
I tell you why I laugh, Jamie, because I keep hearing that this is how Paratici, as if it's a brilliant strategy, and I think that's probably how every other club works. There's a number of targets on the go at one time, and yet because it's Paratici, we fall for this wonderful strategy, and 91 clubs who have exactly the same strategy, that doesn't get anything.
Yeah, no, okay, I do get that. I just wonder. I mean, the hope is that maybe he's got the deal lined up for maybe a right wing back or whatever, maybe something like that. But I think currently it's probably going to be unlikely that we get another player through the door. Yeah, as the comment says there, I do think we need a right wing back desperately, because I think that's where the creativity is going to come from. I think the Leicester game was quite a good example of maybe how we are going to set up with, if we're going to have 3 central midfielders that are of Skip, Højbjerg and Winks, those sort of players, then I think you're going to need the creativity to come from the fullbacks. We're almost playing a 3-3-4 against Leicester, so the fullbacks are really pushed up, and they were the ones supporting the attackers. They were the one where we were trying to create stuff from. And Emerson Royale is, he struggled to come into the Premier League and adapt so far. He's not really kind of provided that real attacking outlet so far. So right wing back was something that was desperately needed this month. So I have to admit, I'm disappointed, but yeah, I think in terms of incomes, it's going to be very difficult today, unless the amazing Fabio Paratici has something lined up. But it's unlikely, I think.
I mean, Raj for me sums up perfectly with the comment on the screen now. Lamptey for us would be an absolute game changer, in my opinion. I think he's absolutely brilliant. And surely you can do a deal where they've just got rid of Dan Burn. I think he's going to Newcastle today for 13 million. I think, and maybe there's a deal there to be done with Roden going the other way. He used to play for Graham Potter in his Swansea days, so maybe we're putting 2 and 2 together. Maybe that's too simple for Tottenham. Maybe that's too easy to put that equation together. Look, we've got over 600 of you watching live in an afternoon, normal afternoon day. So thank you so much for all your support. Really appreciate it. We're going to go for our first break for the listeners on audio. And taking you into that break will be we'll be continuing to talk about some of the transfers. Jason, I want to just quickly come over to you and get everybody's view on this. But if I can start with you first, Christian Eriksen. Now, obviously, spent so much time at our football club. Absolutely, maybe towards the end it was a little bit acrimonious, but adored by us Tottenham fans. Christian Eriksen is we're never going to forget what he's done for us. 7 months ago, obviously, in the Euros, he had that horrendous situation on the pitch. It's going to be a bit of a fairy tale story. Hopefully, Thomas Frank thinks Christian is still a world-class player. What's your thoughts, Jace, on him going to Brentford? And obviously, all of us from Last Word On Spurs and the wider Spurs community wish him well. What's your thoughts on Christian going to Brentford?
The first thing is we'll concede a goal to a Christian Eriksen corner, won't we? So it's written in the stars. Christian Eriksen, and then he'll pop a free kick in against us. It's fantastic to see him back at top level football. I think it's interesting to see that Thomas Frank today said, we have to bear in mind he hasn't played football for 7 months. So the thought of him suddenly playing in a cup tie 90 minutes on Saturday is a long way from the reality. I think with anything like that, you just have to give the boy real time. Once he starts playing, if he suddenly starts gasping, I don't know enough about the heart problem he's got, but if he's, the very first time he has a falling over, everyone's going to be immediately concerned, aren't they? I just really want to see him back. If he can play half a dozen games at Brentford between now and the end of the season, I think that would be fantastic. I know some people wanted to say, well, if he's available on a free, why doesn't he come back for Tottenham? But if he's only going to be available genuinely for 5 or 6 games, was it really worth doing? I just wish him all the best. It's fantastic to see him. There's the big, obviously, Danish connection at Brentford. I think Brentford as well are probably in a comfortable position in the league where they've got to be aware of what's over their shoulders, but they're not immediately looking back thinking, blimey, we're in big trouble. They're not pushing for a European place. So I think they can kind of go just bobbling along to the end of the season, and it's easier for them to take that risk than it would be for, say, a team pushing for Europe, or even for a Burnley or a Newcastle that's desperate to get points to stay up, and it's all hands on deck. Yeah. So I think it's a good move for him. Let's see where we are at the end of the season, but just fantastic to see him back, mate.
No, it really is. Crackers, over to you on that as well. So, same thing, Christian Eriksen. What do you think of him coming back into the Premier League, which, after 7 months ago, just seems mad, doesn't it, really?
It's crazy. I mean, when you saw that 7 months ago, it was, not if he's going to ever kick a ball again, if he's ever going to take another breath, and we all saw it. And, to even be up and about, and there for his family and his wife and kids and everything is just like that's everything. So getting back to football is just a cherry on the cake, and it just shows you what can be done now medically with people, to go from that to 25, 30 years ago, even forget it. There was absolutely, I don't think he'd have even survived that, to be honest, but to be back playing football is just fantastic, and he's back earning a living for his family. Not that he probably ever needed to, even if he never kicked a ball again. But just for him as a human being and doing what he loves, it's just everything. He's not had to sort of deal with that. Your career's over. Go and find something else to do. So it's brilliant. They are. I think it's a good match. It's coming back with very little pressures. as such. You know, pressures at Brentford isn't the same as, you know, going to maybe us or an Arsenal or Chelsea or a Liverpool or anything, and just see, you know, how he progresses from now. So yeah, brilliant, absolutely brilliant to see him back. And like Jason said, you just know it, don't you? That first corner, and you go, don't worry about it. It's only Eriksen. Never beats the first man, and he'll actually smash it in from the corner. Jamie, they call that an Olympic or something? That goal, isn't it?
You know what, Crackers?
I think it is, isn't it?
You know what, Crackers? He's going to take that near post corner and it's going to skim off of Kane's head, and it'll be karma for Stoke all those years ago. It'll be, did Eriksen score it, or was it an own goal by Kane?
Yeah.
Oh, looks like Lee might have broken.
So,
down.
boys, just having a quick think here. I'm back, right? So yeah, sorry about that. I've got a bit of a signal issue. The old choo-choo. Hang on, just shoveling some coal back into the train here. Make sure it keeps going. I want to pick up on a point that you mentioned earlier. There's lots of comments in live comments at the moment about, you know, any news on Dybala. I don't think that's going to happen, to be fair. And any news on anything else. At Dark Wolf actually talks about Lucas potentially playing as a right wing back. Now I know that there was some muted suggestions maybe that. Steven Bergwijn could potentially play there. Maybe Lucas could potentially play there. We were looking at Adama Traore for that right wing back position. Obviously, that hasn't happened. With Kulu coming in, do we think that the setup, do we think that Kulu's just going to be a substitute, if you like, for a Lucas Moura on that side, or Son, and now enabling Son to play up alongside Harry Kane and Kulu coming in from the left? Or do we think that we're going to shift it around a bit and actually play either Bergwijn or Lucas as a right wing back? Do you think that could happen? Jamie, over to you.
I think there's a possibility. I know when Conte was at Inter, he used kind of wingers. Sometimes he'd use wingers as his fullbacks. I think it was Ivan Perisic that he used as one of his left wing back at times. So he has done it. I mean, potentially. I mean, you see how many wingers that we have been linked with, and obviously we have just brought. You know, we're bringing in Kulusevski, and how many we've already got? You've got Bergwijn, you've got Son, you've got Moura. So there's there's 4 wingers there now. So maybe he might look to do that. As I said, he's done it. He did it before at Inter, where he used actual wingers as wing backs. We even looked like we were we obviously clearly targeted a move for Yannick Carrasco this month, and he's obviously a player that can play as a wing back, has done for Atletico, and he's also renowned for being a winger mostly. So potentially that could be an option. The one thing I'm slightly worried about, but for me, I think Spurs have been best when we've played a 3-5-2 rather than having wingers. I think our best 2 performances under Conte have been against Leicester. Were against Leicester and Liverpool, both the games in which we used 3-5-2 system. So. Yeah, I mean, I think one of the Gareth in the comments there is saying maybe Kulusevski is a number 10. So behind, the likes of Son or Kane. So that for me is maybe Kulusevski's coming in to play as a number 10. Of course, we saw Lucas Moura. Actually, I remember under Mourinho a couple of times when Moura was used as a number 10, and I actually thought that's when he had some of his best performances. So.
Arguably against Ajax, right? He come inside, didn't he? He played down the middle, and actually, when Lucas has been most effective, he's been playing down the middle, isn't he?
Exactly. So that's where I prefer to see Lucas Moura. I think it's where he's best. But I personally want to see us playing in a 3-5-2. That was something that maybe slightly concerned me with Luis Diaz. When we were initially linked with Luis Diaz, I was thinking, that's going to be another left winger. Another winger coming to the club. Are they looking to play a 3-4-3? Where I just think we've struggled sometimes to kind of connect the midfield and the attack when we've played that 3-4-3. But with the 3-5-2, we've just so many formations. I just think we've looked so much better. So I hope that Kulusevski may be being brought in as a number 10. But let's see. Yeah. I mean, for me, hopefully we do stick to the 3-5-2 because I think that's where we play best at. Cool.
So look, we're
Lee, go again. Lee, because Lee, you
kind of
broke
points
up
per game.
then.
Explore that a little bit more with the silly season.
I think
Okay now?
there's a bit of a delay, Lee.
Okay.
Have you been buying internet
better.
routers off of Daniel Levy again?
No, I've been buying them from Michael Bridge.
Can you hear me? Go now, Lee.
So I've been quite vocal about 72 points and getting into the top four. If you look at the 12-year average in the Premier League, 72 points gets you into that top four. The last 3 years, the average has been 68 points in the last 3 seasons, So we're halfway through the season and we've got 36 points. Factoring in, we've already had a managerial change. We already lost 5 league games under Nuno as well. And we've also got a world-class manager now in Antonio Conte. We've also signed the 2 lads that we talked about earlier from Juve. Do we think, regardless of what happens now until the end of the transfer window tonight, do we think we've got a really good chance still of getting into the top 4?
I think we have. You got Anfield away, Old Trafford away, Villa Park away, Brighton away. I forget which the other one was. I'm thinking of. Oh, we've just done Chelsea away. So, it's a tougher fixture, and Manchester City away. So it's a tougher fixture list the second half of the season to the first. But like I say, I look at West Ham and I think once the Europa League starts up, I think they'll have a real go at Europa League football, which means Antonio's another one that has injury problems. Their squad will get stretched. I look at Man United. They've still got this problem. Pogba will come back, but with players missing and with Ranić trying to do his system, and it looks a mess at Man United at the moment. And I look at Arsenal, who've actually had a decent start to the season. They've been on the, you could say they've been on the up, but they're still effectively behind us. Still got problems for themselves. So there's no reason why. Everything is in front of us to grab. And I genuinely believe we have a far better chance of being in the top 4 than lots of people are giving us. I wouldn't be surprised if we missed out, but I'm certainly, I look at it and I think maybe if Man United got everything together and got their pieces together and suddenly clicked, then you'd look at them and say they're probably the favourites because of their strength in depth. But Manchester United haven't looked like that all season. So, and you're right, I think with Kane hopefully firing in the second half of the season, with Christian Romero hopefully back to fitness in the second half of the season, because we haven't really seen Christian Romero. And then with players that Conte's brought in this window, do we look stronger going into the second half of the season than the first? Yes, we do. And the fact of the matter is, you're right, we have 36 points from 19 games. And if you repeat that in the second half of the season, there's a great chance we finish in that top 4.
Agreed. Totally agree. Crackers, just coming over to you on that same point. Do you think that, I know we'll go mad for transfers. We will even Jace is loving a transfer window this time around. But we'll go a bit mad for it. Do you think that logic tells me that actually if we've accumulated 36 points in the first half of the season, had a managerial change, already lost 5 games out of that lot, now we've got a world-class manager, regardless of even if we bring in 1 or 2 players or 0 players, surely we should have a better second half of the season because Conte's working the players day in, day out.
There's just so many variables for that second half of the season, though, Lee, isn't there? That's the problem. We're one bad tackle away on Kane from losing our striker. We've currently no backup striker. 8 hours to go, Mr. Levy. And Ivan Toney or Origi is still, you can still go and get them. So, there's that. Romero coming back, as you say, helps. And I think that also helps the issue of the right wing back. Somebody made the point in the comments there where I think he gives you a little bit of better cover there. If he stays fit, that would be a bonus. But again, if he goes or, there's an injury, we're a bit paper thin. That's the problem. This is the issue we've got here, is that squad is a little bit paper thin. And Jason's right, Man United have got great like for like replacements throughout their squad, but they do look a team a little bit in turmoil. We've got this fixture backup as well, which is a great thing to still have those points to go out and get. But, don't put it past this wonderful Premier League to have us playing like Monday, Wednesday, Saturday for 2 or 3 weeks, like catching up. And, they're going to do us no favour. So it's going to need the club to be very, very strong when these rescheduled fixtures are put to us, to turn around and say, no, sorry, you're going to have to find a better solution than that, because that's just too much of a demand on us. So, if they can cancel games for one case of COVID, which happened to be to our detriment, and then all of a sudden there's a rule change, then we have to push back and go, well, no, sorry, we're not having this. You're not slipping that Arsenal game in on the Wednesday night between 2 other big games, and find a better solution. So there's a lot of variables the second half, Lee, of the season. But, as Jason said, doable as it is undoable. It wouldn't surprise you either way, would it?
Can I just say on that, Crackers? The one difference is, whilst we have those fixtures to play, we don't have Europe this year.
Yeah.
So you can play those in those European weeks, and those fixtures against Burnley, Brighton, and Woolwich, and none of them have Europe. So if we was in the Champions League or Europa League, or even in the dreaded checker trade, and you think, well, there's all those dates, we can't fit them in those, and you've got international dates. But actually, Tottenham Hotspur as a football club are well used to playing Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday, and any club should be. So I'm not too worried about the congestion, because there is plenty of space in that calendar to fit those games in now.
Yeah, you just wouldn't put it past them, though, to pile us up a little bit, would you? Give us some ridiculous, solutions to it when there's probably easier ones.
Yeah, I think they will. Jamie, just your take on that as well. I mean, I know that you've been a little bit deflated through the transfer window, but then obviously with the signings that you said at the beginning of the show today, a little bit kind of still the jury's out. But given them stats and given where we are, do you think that we've still got a really strong chance of qualifying into that top 4? Bearing in mind, if we win our games in hand, that's a big if, listeners and viewers. I get that, but if we win our games in hand, we are right up there. I think we're still above Chelsea or a point. I think that win took them a point above us if we win it. So we are right up there, Jamie, aren't we?
Yeah. So I think the Chelsea game was kind of maybe a bit overinflated in terms of where we're at. Obviously, we just didn't compete at all. And it was a very disappointing performance. And I think it was very concerning. But I think if you give all the factors of that match, the fact that we are just dreadful at Stamford Bridge, full stop. You see the stats of us going to the top 6 clubs in general. It's always been very poor. So, and then, of course, you factor in the players that we're missing to go to Stamford Bridge with no Romero, no Sonny, no Mora being able to start, no Skip being able to start. So we were missing some key players. So I think that game, as much as it looked really quite horrific, I don't think it's as bad. I don't think that's actually the reality of where we're at. I think once we've got the likes of Heung-min Son back, I think I saw a stat with Heung-min Son of where, we've got an awful win record without him in the Premier League. So it just shows you he is such a big player, and we know what Son is like. Although, he can have these poor games, he's a guy that always steps up for us. So to be without him, to have Romero back, I think will be a big factor. And then obviously you add these 2 new guys into the mix. Hopefully they'll add something to the squad as well. I don't worry too much about depth. I mean, of course, as I said, against Chelsea, when we are stripped down to the bare bones, that's what we look like, and that's kind of where we're at. But I think that would only really be a concern for me, the lack of depth, if we did still have Europe, if we were still maybe in that cup final. But for me, I think we should just about have enough in that squad to kind of get these fixtures done in the remaining in the Premier League. So I'm not too worried about the depth. I think in terms of the quality, we've got it. And I think if there's one manager, genuinely, if there was one manager that I'd want us to be guiding us through this, it's Antonio Conte. I mean, he's a guy who's already worked miracle. Yeah. He's a guy that's already worked miracle. Oh, go on, Lee.
I was going to say, look, I know that we need support. He needs support with players and so on and so forth, and I totally get that. And I personally think that the transfer window up until this point has been a bit of a shambles, if I'm honest. It feels like it's a scattergun approach. I do know though from people close to the club that Paratici, and we've had this from Fabrizio Romano, we've had this from other people that talk to me as well, that Paratici likes to cast his net wide and get few players in each position, and if he can't get one, he goes for another, and that's maybe why we're linked with so many different people, and it is really, really taxing on almost on our mental health when you see that you're linked with this plan, you're linked with that plan, it never comes off, and you've got the people like Jason who stays quite sane during this whole period. It's like, look, let's not get excited until they're holding up the shirt. And it's very difficult to do. But I know he needs support in that way. But when you look at his record and you look at his win percentage record in the Premier League, even for Tottenham as well now, and you look at the fact that, as you say, Sonny's not been around. You look at the fact that Romero's hardly kicked a ball for us. Typically classic Spurs, he'd been like a new signing for us. But, the reality is that, yes, we've got some harder games, but we've got maximum of 25 games left, 18 in the Premier League and 5, hopefully, maybe 6, I think it might be, in the FA Cup, if we can go all the way there. That's 25 games or 24 games left of the season. And with this squad that we've got, everybody fit, where does Steven Bergwijn play, and Lucas play, and Kulu play, and Son play, and Kane play? We're talking about we ain't got no depth, but all of a sudden, how do you fit all of them into a team? You've got Ben Davies, who's been, literally a miracle this season, as a buyer. This is the Conte effect. So, I think that some of us, including myself, but some of us, the fans, the listeners, the viewers, they need to remember that Conte's been here for 9 Premier League games and lost 1. If he goes on another run like that, our points per game ratio is going to be absolutely massive, as Jay said. And I think top 4 for us, I think top 4 is ours to lose. That's what I personally think. I think top 4 is ours to lose. So, look, absolutely brilliant. Look, I'm conscious of time. There's over 650 watching live, on a Monday afternoon. It's absolutely fantastic. Jay, do you want to come in there?
Yeah, I was just going to say, whilst it looks a scattergun approach, and it may well be, I'm not saying it's a perfectly well thought out approach. Like I say, when you compare it to other clubs, particularly those around us, West Ham have gone for. They were interested in Traore. They're now chasing a bloke on deadline day from Benfica. They want Calvin Phillips. They want Rafinha. And despite West Ham being the absolute world's most massive club, they've got none. West Ham, Arsenal chased Vlahovic, didn't get him. They're now chasing Isaac, not getting him. Their current club captain is leaving the club. Their other club captain is caught up in a betting scandal. They've got Lacazette and Nketiah as their only forward players, both who are out of contract at the end of the season. So as much as you could say Tottenham have got a scattergun approach, how better is the approach of those clubs nearby? Liverpool's approach, even with Luis Diaz, if you put that into Tottenham's position, there'd be lots of Tottenham fans saying, well, why do we leave these things so late? Why do we leave them so late? Well, Liverpool were going to leave that until the summer. But they could have got him now, and they've had to go and get him now. But it just shows you it doesn't always work out in the way that you start writing down. And people like Origi, would Origi leave Liverpool to come to Tottenham as a backup? So, there's always ways we can look around the window to think, yes, we could have done this better. But until you know the genuine ins and outs, I'm loath to go with with no respect to Jamie, I'm loath to go with what Fabrizio Romano tells me, or Di Marzio tells me, or Tuto Mercato tells me, or Marca, because these things are never quite as written down like that. And even now, I'm still waiting for Ndombele to be sold. I'm still waiting for Lo Celso to be sold. I'm still waiting for Dele Alli to make a move. None of these things have actually happened yet. So let's just wait until it shuts, and then we'll judge where we are and see whose scattergun approach worked best.
Yeah, just on Dele Alli. Sorry, Lee. I was just going to come in on Dele Alli. There's, the Telegraph are reporting that Everton are now kind of working on a permanent deal for Dele. There's supposedly Frank Lampard's recommended him. So I just thought
but
Jamie, it's midday.
when you look at it, would you take Van der Beek and Dele Alli on the same day in the space of 10 minutes with a brand spanking new manager that's just come in place. I mean, you look at Everton, for instance, you talk about scattergun. Their best defender was probably Luca Digne, who doesn't like Rafa Benitez. So they sell Luca Digne for 25. They bring in an unknown Ukrainian for 21 million. And they sack the manager that's fallen out with Luca Digne 2 days later. How's that for scattergun?
Do you know what I like as well is Everton actually trying at midday with 11 hours to go to buy a player from Daniel Levy with 11 hours to go. I mean, like, it's just you've got to be a brave club to try. Daniel likes 3 months of haggling. Give you 5, no, give you 6, no 4, make it 7, 8. Where was we? They're trying to do that in 11 hours. So if that deal gets done. Whoever does Everton's negotiations, if they get Dele Alli over the line by 11 p.m, you want to send him out to the Russian-Ukraine border, because if he can get that deal done, he'll sort anything out, let me tell you.
No, for sure. Look, I'm conscious of time. We've got over 700 people watching live, 700 of you. Do me a favour, because Rick's not here, so I'm allowed to do this. Press the like button. If you like what the Last Word On Spurs content, if you like what we're doing today and forever, press that like button. I want to see 700 likes on our feed, please. That'd be fantastic. Thanks so much for your support. Look, just quickly running around the guests. We're back on tonight at 8:30 for a transfer window special for the rest of the window. I still think something might happen. I am also deluded, by the way, listeners and viewers, but I do think that something still might happen. Just quickly going around to everybody. What do you think that will happen for the rest of the day? Jace, coming to you first. Do you think anyone else will come in this window?
I think it will depend if we get those three or four out, then maybe we'll grab an opportunity. But I think if this, I don't think it's going to be a name that suddenly Tariq Lamptey's going to arrive, or James Ward-Prowse is somebody arrive. It might be a bloke from Benfica or a bloke from Villarreal or something that you just think, there is another body through the door. But I don't think it's going to be a target where we're jumping around the room with massive delight with 5 minutes of the window to go. No.
Crackers, what about you?
As Jason said, I think if all of those get over the line, and if Delhi gets done as well and sold, I don't know, maybe there's a couple of players at Everton that they actually say, well, can we do a deal like for him coming the other way? And somebody all of a sudden phones up at 8 p.m. and says, X, Y, and Z's looking. They do sometimes happen. So there is every chance, isn't there? You just know that at 10 to 11 we're going to be linked with like Ousmane Dembele or something ridiculous, aren't we? Like, can we get a deal done for Dembele in like 9 minutes or something crazy? There always is, isn't there? So. Yeah, it's just it's like the Grand National, isn't it? Transfer deadline day. You can't really back a winner, to be honest. It's just like anything can happen. So I think that's why we all love it, really. It's just that anticipation of just something ridiculous happening. As much as you can bring in a Van der Vaart, you can also lose a Dimitar Berbatov and bring in a Fraser Campbell, can't you? So, but it does, isn't it? It's the yin and the yang, the snakes and the ladders of it all. So watch this space.
Let's see what happens. Jamie, coming over to you on that side of things. What do you think? Do you think that there's any more coming in?
No, I don't. I can't see anything happening. I think I'm slightly mixed. I know, sorry. But I'm slightly mixed on whether I would demand, if we were to get Dele, Lo Celso, and Ndombele all out the door, then I would be kind of slightly torn between whether I would want another player to come in or demand another player to come in, because I think it's very big that we've managed to get these three players out the door with the wages that we're earning, the potential fees that we can get for them. I think that'd be perfect for us, and that's kind of what January is about sometimes. But if we were to get one in, it was really going to be one that's under the radar. And I think Jason's right. It's not going to be a name where I think we'll be, delighted about it. But
What's happened to Amrabat?
Deal off, apparently. Deal's died a death, apparently. But
good, but I've not seen anything with it. It's just suddenly, he's set to sign and he's Conte loves him, and this bloke tells me, and all these wonderful Italian journalists, it's happening, and then boom, nothing.
What we don't like, Jamie, is you being the party pooper here and saying nothing might happen. You're like Sue Gray getting invited to a Boris Johnson party. You are.
I'm sorry about that. Sorry to disappoint.
It won't stop him putting out another 75 tweets about who we're signing today, though.
Yeah, no, keep many of stories.
Listeners.
Lee McQueen is definitely on one of his old bosses, Lord Sugar's modems, isn't he? Lee, you've definitely got an Amstrad modem there, haven't you? Definitely.
I don't know. That Amstrad modem is pretty good, to be honest. I'm just giving that a bit of a plug. Look, lads, thank you so much for joining us. Transfer deadline day is really, really moving and shaking, as you know. Tune in tonight at 8:30. We're going to be live. The whole Last Word On Spurs team are going to be together. It's a transfer special. We're going to go all the way through to 11 o'clock. Hopefully, we've got something to talk about again later on. And it's really good to get the rest of the team's views on how it's gone so far. And we're really going to get into some of the detail, what we can do for the rest of the season as well. My massive thanks to everybody listening and obviously tuning in on this afternoon. Thank you so much, Jace. Thank you, Jamie. And also thank you, Crackers. The crazy train keeps on rolling. And as always, as Rick always says, and I've always wanted to say this, come on, you Spurs.
Cheers, boys.
Last one, boys. Oh, we're still live.
All right.
Goodbye, everyone. Thank you.
See you all.